Why is gun ownership so specifically intertwined with American culture? Well, you might point to the Second Amendment and its impact on society. In fact, it seems like many gun ownership advocates have an almost religious reverence for that law. But I'm more convinced by an argument put forth in this book that our laws about guns, or the lack thereof, are due to a specific ideological framework that, one, is unique to the formation of the United States, two, that predates and was the reason for the Second Amendment, and three, has been at the center of gun rights advocacy movements for centuries, even to this day. Now, the ideological framework in question is very simple, but still listen closely. So the basic idea is that common people should fear violence from some form of an other, and from this fear they need to be armed and militarized to protect themselves. But the important question is, who is this other, and where does the solution of having guns to fight them come from? In school, we are taught that when the Second Amendment was ratified, the other our founding fathers had in mind was some form of tyrannical government like how they perceived the British monarchy. But looking at American history, it's clear to see how the original and the most common idea of the other has been grounded in American racism. In the early 1600s, before any of the anti-British tensions of the Revolution, there were literally laws in colonial Virginia that required every white man to have a gun and to do military drills after church in preparation for conflict against Native Americans. Following what is called the French and Indian War, our earliest American folk heroes like Daniel Boone and Robert Rogers were born out of the idea of common men leading militias westward and killing Native Americans to expand what would become the United States. Commoners from these militias then formed armed slave patrols as the increase of black rebellions and resistance stoked white American fears of the overthrow of the Cotton Kingdom. Sally E. Haddon talks about this in her book, Slave Patrols. And as time went on, this dynamic continued to evolve. With Manifest Destiny, the other became the Native Americans of the West and Southwest, and the glorified armed citizen became the gun-toting cowboy, which is still an American icon. Following the Civil War, the other became freed black people, and the glorified armed commoner became the white Klansman who protected everyone from the threat of Negro rule. Even the ideology that grounds gun rights advocacy today stems from this racialized framework. As I'm sure many of you have encountered, today's gun rights messaging is grounded in gun populism and the hypothetical of a home invasion and the need for someone to protect their family with a gun in the home. But as a former firearms salesman explains in this book, this self-defense narrative was born out of a concerted effort by the multi-billion-dollar firearms industry to use racial anxiety and right-wing radicalization to increase sales. The other, in this case, became black or Latinx thugs, and the glorified armed commoner became white fathers or mothers trying to protect their children. And this ideology is also present in a lot of stand your ground legislation, which we know has devastating racial outcomes and has led to the deaths of young black men like Trayvon Martin. And it's these centuries-old ideas that drive the irrational anxiety many Americans have with passing gun safety legislation.